instruction. So these are the main areas of instruction that we're looking at. So we're getting a new math program in grades K to 5. We have math chair people who have been leading the discussion. We've got a bunch of samples that we brought in. They've settled on Savvis Envision program, which is similar to what we have, but an upgraded version, an updated version, I should say. And also supplemented by hand-to-mind daily math fluency kits. So I asked some teachers to give me an explanation of their choices. So, if you don't mind, I'm just going to read this. The Savvis Envision Mathematics 2020 program uses visual and problem-based learning to enrich students' understanding. The program is closely aligned with the New Jersey State Learning Standards. Within this program, students are asked to think critically about real-world problems that are related to the math skills they are learning. It allows students to evaluate, collaborate, and present their thoughts while focusing on strong mathematical vocabulary, modeling skills, and connections between concepts. And then the K-5 hand-to-mind daily math fluency kits are a supplemental program that will allow the teachers to reinforce and teach strategies that build upon number sets. The program includes math talks and number string, which provides students with the opportunity to discuss numbers while building strong mathematical reasoning skills. The program engages students in mathematical discussions that involve the use of modeling and numerical strategies. Okay. And then also in our middle school, for our 7th grade accelerated program, they chose a similar program for that grade level. And the explanation for that is that it incorporates the 7th and 8th grade New Jersey Student Learning Standards required for the pre-algebra course. In our previous program, supplemental material was needed to meet the 8th grade standards. Using this new program will provide consistency throughout lessons, practice, and assessments, and ensure that most 7th graders are prepared to move into Algebra 1 in 8th grade. Our ESL program is also getting something new. And her explanation is the ILIT program is a comprehensive reading intervention program for students in grades 4 and above. Teachers and students can access this fully digital program on multiple platforms and devices, and it utilizes a proven instructional model. It supports Tier 2 and 3 and English language learners, students with various resources, curriculum assessment data, and professional development. ILIT ELL is a comprehensive digital program built to support ELL grade level reading, writing, speaking, and listening skills at ELL's individual proficiency levels. It accelerates English language development through a mix of strategic scaffolding, interactive content, visual aids, academic vocabulary support, survival vocabulary for newcomers, and home language help. All right, and then the Sunday program, actually we're going to have a presentation on this next board meeting. Our 2 special education chair people are piloting this right now and doing model lessons with the teachers. It's been very well received. This is because in our current in-class resource room classes, which are co-teaching classes, right now the language arts program is being differentiated by the special education teachers. So we felt that in order to better serve our students, we wanted to put an actual program in place in addition to differentiating the Gen Ed program that we have in place. So Sunday is something that Spotswood uses as well, and it was recommended to Mrs. McGowan from Heather over there. So Sunday, the explanation I got is a structured, systemic, phonics-based scaffolded curriculum that includes a substantial spelling component, contains a multi-sensory practice through tracing, tapping, and spelling, and provides the glue for memory. It reads sounds, quick drill of learned sounds presented as a slideshow. It spells sounds where students write the sounds they hear as reading words, sounding out words, reading sight words, contractions and sentences, spelling words, students spell words and sentences dictated by the teacher, and it introduces new materials that students hear, write, read, and spell. So like I said, we'll get a better explanation of that program next month. Social studies in grades K to 3, usually when we revise the curriculum, teachers look at materials to go with the revised curriculum, so social studies is being revised this year. The lower grade social studies has not really had updated materials even with the previous revision. We used to have Nystrom math program, which were the parts of globes and everything. I don't know if you probably remember them, right? So we haven't really invested a lot of money into lower grade social studies. So what we're going to do with this revision is we're going to look at K1 kits that supplement their content. Probably Lakeshore has a nice variety of different kits that they can provide for social studies, but there's also DBQ units that I found to go along with elementary. Usually DBQ is more of a high school concept. It's essay writing in a very specific content area format for social studies itself, but they can drop it down into the elementary level. And we did have it written into the curriculum for a while, but we've kind of lost some momentum behind it, so I wanted to bring that back a little bit and look at the elementary DBQ kits for that. And also, we're looking at iExcel, and it shouldn't say K2 there, by the way, it should say 3. So iExcel is the program you might all be familiar with. We use it mainly in reading and math, but they also have a social studies component, which is nice because now the teachers are going to be able to pick the skills that go along with their social studies unit. So it's a nice supplement on the Chromebooks to what the children are already familiar with using in reading and math as well. We spoke with them. They all agreed they don't really need a textbook at that lower level for social studies, so that's why we decided to go with these kind of resources instead. And we can always expand that. This is just, again, please, preliminary. I just wanted to give you a sense of what we're doing. And the last thing is Nearpod. And if you're an educator, you know Nearpod is like, oh my goodness, like the new be-all, end-all of educator stuff lately. It's at every conference, but I can't find my explanation for it. But it has a platform that crosses over into every content area. Here it is. And gives you, here we go. Oh, sorry. So Nearpod is a website tool that offers countless content pertaining to any subject. Lessons can be created by teachers and shared within the library of content if chosen, as well as pre-built lessons from other educators and companies such as PBS. Nearpod is an interactive slideshow that offers a range of 9 formative assessments such as drag and drops, open-ended questions, quizzes, polls, collaboration boards, fill in the blanks, open-ended questions, draw it, and other interactive games. This gives teachers the opportunity to have a more engaging and time-efficient lesson. Educators are able to review their student answers and determine who may need extra help or if the lesson needs to be clarified. So that's what we're doing as far as the instruction piece, or at least the main focuses. Okay, we have some initiatives that we're looking at. One is a cultural diversity audit. So you might be familiar with our current initiatives that we have with EDI. So teachers are involved in a very comprehensive professional development program right now that focuses not just on the ethnicity side of it, but also on the inclusion side of it. So there's 2 separate pieces that are running kind of simultaneously through our district series, which are 5 different Monday afternoons throughout the year. And we're tracking them by grade level. And we have a partnership with NJPSA, which is the Principals Association. They created specific learning modules for us, and the teachers are going in and doing that, and we have reflection questions, which were a follow-up to in-service days where we brought in 3 different speakers. You might know we've also followed up with 1 speaker at the PTO meeting, which was the general membership meeting. So that was really successful, and the speakers are excellent. And then we have the other side of it is an inclusion model, which we have NJCIE, which is the New Jersey Center for Inclusion Education. They're working with us, with our special education staff at best practice for including our special needs students in instruction. So we don't want to, like anything else in Milltown, we don't just drop things, we keep going. So the next step in all of this is a curriculum diversity audit. So I met with NJPSA, and Mrs. Citro was there with me, and we have a consultant that I actually did my doctoral work with. She's excellent, and she is a consultant now and does diversity audit. So diversity audit is similar to what some of you might remember we did with the Gifted and Talented program, and what we did with the special education department itself before Mrs. McGowan took over. We also have something in your board packets tonight about what Dr. Ferry is doing, evaluating our assessment, all of our assessments in the district to see what assessments we're using, what content area, what recommendations he can make, and moving forward. Similar concept. So it's going to look at surveying K-5, 5th grade and up students, parents and teachers, and getting a sense of, I guess, different components of the district that look at your environment as far as EDI. And then, of course, coming back, sharing that data, making recommendations, and then moving forward to fill in the gaps of what came out that were revealed in the audit. So this is not going to be 1 year either. This is going to be a first step, right? So it's probably going to be part of our strategic plan, because in the fall, we have a new strategic plan that we're putting out, and our strategic plans are 3 years. So it works out really nicely, because this is part of year 1. Then year 2 is going to be, implementing some things that would be recommended, and this would probably flow into year 3, or at least an evaluation of how to do, how are things going. So that's the cultural diversity audit. And then Strauss-Esme policy guide. Strauss-Esme is a vendor that supplements the New Jersey School Board's policies. Every school district belongs to New Jersey School Boards by default, but the overwhelming majority of school districts use Strauss-Esme to supplement their policy development. We just don't have them in place. But Mr. Schneider and I have discussed this for a while now, and this is the year to put them in. So we're going to put Strauss-Esme in the budget. The startup cost is a little bit more than the maintenance cost, so we just have to budget for the startup. But we have a good relationship with them already, so it's not going to be a problem to put them in place. But we kind of get a little policies from them anyway up front, but we don't get enough, so we need them to be on board with us.
And he's a good attorney on top of it.
That's very true. Okay. And you all might have, whoever's gone to school boards with us in the fall, they always have a table there, so you might have met them.
I think I have.
Phil?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Technology. Okay, so the technology, the JK Computer Lab redesign. So JK Computer Lab right now has desktop computers, and the children are all now using Chromebooks and laptops, right? So we're going to, with the recommendation of the technology director and Mr. Barton and Mrs. Eichert, who are our 2 technology teachers, we're looking at redesigning the JK Computer Lab to a more current version. So we're going to be redistributing the desktops into the teachers' classrooms, which are mostly an updated version of what most people have in their classrooms, and buying different furniture in there and getting rid of the lower, mauve-covered, colored desks and giving them more of a high-top kind of version, allowing them to bring the Chromebooks in, just updating the lab. Okay, so that kind of says all that. Okay, then facilities. All right, so in order to get more space at JK, which we are in need of, we are going to be putting the board offices into a modular in the back lawn of JK. So right behind the computer lab, which is where we have large storage containers right now, they're getting moved, actually sold out. And we're going to put a large office modular there. It's going to contain my office, the business administrator's office, and our administrative team our administrative support team is going to be in there as well, with a conference room. That will free up 2 classrooms and a small group instruction space, which years ago were 2 5th grade classrooms and a resource center room. So we need to reclaim that office space to classroom space. Mr. Veed has plans for who he's gonna be moving in there. I had that on one of these papers. I have entirely too many papers tonight, don't I? It was art and music, not art. No, it was music though. Music lost their room a while ago. I don't know. If I find it, I'll let you know. But there's 2 classrooms that are going to go in there, plus I think it's OTPT that would go in my office because it's a smaller office. And then we're going into the modular. Then the JK Tech Lab hallway. So then we're cutting a new hallway through the side of the JK Tech Lab. If you are familiar with JK and you are standing in the hallway facing the JK Tech Lab, it has 2 doors to enter the Tech Lab. So the door on the right-hand side, we're actually going to make a new hallway. It's not going to be a hallway that's going to be used by the children. The door is going to stay in place, but we're going to put it so that we have access from the new modular in the back of the school into the building. Because otherwise we'd have to walk around into the front of the school, which is the next thing, because the JK main entrance is getting moved as well. So we're not going to keep the JK main entrance where it is. For years, that has been a problem, having the JK main entrance separated from the JK main office. There's been several reasons why it's been a problem. So we're going to move it. So those double doors now that you're entering as the main entrance is just going to become an emergency exit. We're going to take out the glass doors that are there as the security entrance. It's going to flow right back in because those are going to be classrooms now. And then if you can picture where the flagpole is over here and where the crosswalk is going up those steps, sort of to the left a little bit, like I said, where the flagpole is going to move. We're going to put it in the corner where the grass and the corner where the sidewalk goes around to the side of the building, and put a new main entrance there. And it's going to go into what is right now the JK main office conference room. So the JK main office conference room is going to get redesigned, to say the least. The teacher's mail room is getting pushed in the front. The copy room is getting pushed in the front. Everything's getting turned around sideways, sort of. But it looks like it's going to be a nice design. Mr. Veet was involved. Mrs. Baudelaire was involved. They got a say, and it looks like it's going to work out very nicely. It gives them what Parkview has now that we don't have at JK, which is a second secure entrance, like a man trap, like Mrs. Tercey just said. You have somewhere to hold visitors until you ask them why they're visiting. People don't walk right in. Right now, they're walking into what the area of the board office is, which is fine because there's no children there. It's just the receptionist and all of us, which is like a regular office building. But you don't want that happening when they're walking into the main office, which leads you right into where the classroom spaces are. So you have to have a double layer. So that's the JK main entrance. And so the office module, the hallway, the renovation, all of that is coming out of capital, which took us 7 years to save for, which is why there is no referendum. 7 years to save for. So this is a huge level of project construction that's going to go on this summer, but it's all going to be done by September. And it's all because we want to reclaim those classroom spaces back, not just because we need them currently, but because there might be some type of population that comes in the future because of Ford Avenue, because of what might be happening with Acton, because of all that. You have to have some future, planning, and if we stay in these classrooms, that's not going to work. So you have to reclaim some space. All right, JK current offices reclaiming classrooms. All right, okay, and then the parking pad and the playground walkway. So anybody that was at the what?
The PTO spring dance.
There we go. Would know
Slow dance.
that you don't want to keep the parking pad and the walkway the way it is. I mean, we did that because of concern for water flow, and it was also a very inexpensive option at the time to have that parking pad and the sidewalk installed the way it was, but now we're going to just include it with the bid and have it paved, because you can't really walk on it. You can park on it, but you have to be careful walking from your car, because it has large diamond-shaped grooves in it. So
But
it's
if you're not wearing sneakers, you're going to twist the ankle.
Exactly. And
you
then-
don't correct it.
Right, and then the last thing is that we're including in the bid too, is where the glass links are, we have that courtyard that connects, one door connects to the hallway on the side by the gym and the other to the science lab room. That in there is space that we need to reclaim for something. I mean, right now, it's just kind of dead space. We tried years ago to put in like a rain barrel there and tried to use it for different science classes, but it's become overgrown and unmanageable because there's a tree in there that was supposed to be a landscaping tree that obviously was a landscaping tree on steroids because now it's huge and you can't do anything in that space at all. So we have to get the tree out of there, clean it up in order to do anything with that space. So since we're doing all this anyway, we figured we'd just put it in the bid and see how much it would cost. If we can't do it, we can't do it, but at some point it has to get dealt with. So we figured at least this is a first step to see how much it would cost to do that. Oh, there we go. Any questions?
So we'll just open it up to the board first, if anyone has any questions. Again, this is all obviously preliminary, so the actual numbers will come out. And then in May, we'll have our formal
And then we'll be able to do 3 things that I just don't do.
once we go through the actual numbers. But at least now this is, everything we hope to accomplish this year. So anyone on the board? All right, open up to the public if anyone has any comments or questions.
Yes. In regards to the staffing, one was taking on a part-time nurse, full-time custodian. Is that just for Joyce Kilmer, or is that for Parkview as well? Or is it a rotation between the both?
Right,
Yes,
the custodian, because we have an extra 3,000 square feet to clean in the modular, and there are no subs, custodial subs, so that person will probably go to both schools, so they can help both.
Okay.
And the part-time nurse is right now, she's dealing with COVID-related things, so she's dealing with both schools. She's
Okay.
supporting both.
Understood. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? In the back?
Hi, Dawn Milburn,
Ah,
12 Desmond Avenue. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that. With the cultural diversity audit, is that actually done by the company EDI? I don't know a lot about EDI in education.
No, it's done by a consultant that we're going to hire through NJPSA. Her name is Dr. Robin Daniels. She's going
Can
to
you give
lead.
us a little bit
She's
more
going to lead
information?
this data analysis, professionals that work with her.
Okay, so you do an audit. Can you explain the audit just a little bit? How it's done, how often it's done, how you get your data, how you would communicate it back?
I can give you a little bit of something. We only had one introductory webinar. We haven't
Okay.
even signed a contract on it yet.
Okay.
But from what I understand, there's a survey involved with parents and students and staff that I can't tell you what the different components is off the top of my head. But after the survey, there's going to be different forums for parents to come in and give input as well in addition to that. And then the data will be reported after that. And then, like I said, then there's going to be recommendations based on what's revealed.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
No problem. Anything else? All right, so yeah, just for the facilities, we are definitely on track to get that done before the start of the school year. As a reminder, our school year ends earlier this year, so mid-January, so that'll give us plenty of time. So obviously the goal is to not disrupt our students. So,
And weather wasn't bad for them to build it.
yeah, so hopefully the weather holds us,
This winter.
as well. So, okay, so yeah, again, look out for in May, we'll have our formal budget presentation, so I do encourage people to come to that, where we'll then give all our final numbers, and obviously what most people care about is the tax impact. So, all right,
That concludes my report.
thank you, Dr. Brown. All right, we will now move on to our committee chairperson's report. So first up is education.
Yep, so Dr. Brown already touched on many aspects of the curriculum updates that will be underway with the upcoming budget. Additionally, when we look at the results of the needs assessment, curriculum and instruction will be one of those categories that we'll be looking closely at. And we have an upcoming meeting, myself, Dr. Brown, and Ms. Vitale, to look at some more options for middle school ELA novels. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mary. Moving on to finance and negotiations. Jen?
Yeah, we just had a meeting immediately before this one. And just to keep everyone on the board updated, it was originally scheduled to be a negotiations meeting with the Administrators Association, but due to the kind of time crunch as a result of the budget, we switched it over to finance. Negotiations are going fine with the administrators. Everything's good there. They agreed to move it off up into March, so we could just have kind of more budget meetings. And then at this meeting, we looked at some of the plans for the office expansion. We went through these budget drivers that Dr. Brown just presented. We asked some questions. We just kind of talked about, what might be happening going forward. Basically, it all kind of depends on the timing, which is my next point. As Norma mentioned, probably on the 10th or 11th, we'll get the state aid numbers. I'll be able to actually start doing projections. We'll get some numbers from Spotswood at some point as to how much of the costs we're going to have to send over there. And then we can, through March, sit down and really start going through, line by line, all the accounting and figuring out what of all these priorities fit and how best to do them. And next one's scheduled for March 24th, on Thursday. And then we'll be back on March 28th to update everyone. That concludes my report.
Today it goes fast.
Yeah, I know. Thank you, Jim. Moving on to policy, legislation, and personnel. Joanne?
Yes, we have 2 new policies that we're putting on for the first reading. One has to do with married, pregnant, and lactating students, which is mandated by the state, but hopefully will never happen here. And the other one is about the face coverings and the masks, and basically, you covered most of it. It basically just says that we're going optional, that we don't want to have any bullying going on, and that if the colors change to orange and red and we have to put something in, or the extreme circumstances of a classroom, we will. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Joanne. And finally, facilities and public relations. Jen?
Well, you know how much I love to talk, but Dr. Brown handled the facilities for me better than I could have done. So I have nothing further to report other than all the plans that we're doing with the modular and hoping that we can do that. So that concludes my report.
All right, thank you, Jen. All right, moving on to liaison reports. First up, mayor and town council. Dave?
Just a little bit of concern about some dates that conflict where we have board meeting and they have a council meeting, but that's typical every year. But then they have 2 meetings a month now where ours are pretty fairly spaced, so if you miss one of ours, you can still go to another, or one of theirs, you can still go to another one at another time. But that's
There's
all I have.
Tuesdays now. I thought they were-
No, they're on Mondays.
Yeah.
I thought we went to Monday.
No, it's one of the spots.
Got it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I did for somebody.
Yeah. But like I said, they're still having 2 meetings a month, so if you can't make both, you could take one here, still make one there. So that's all I have.
Thanks. Yeah, I did see Councilman Revelowski picking up our kids today, so he did mention that, he was a little concerned about the overlap. So after our meeting today, it was mentioned, for the liaison, just to make sure there's no communication back and forth. So we can look into that further.
Sure.
Okay. Educational Services Commission of New Jersey, Dr. Moore.
Yes, so they had a meeting, and one of the topics that they talked about was the new curriculum that the state requires on Asian Pacific Islanders. So they had a professor from Rutgers who talked about recommendations that she had for including that in the curriculum, and that they were going to be repeating a workshop they had previously run last July, hoping to run it again during the summer. So we'll be looking for that workshop so we can get that in place for our curriculum. And that concludes my report.
Milltown Education Foundation, Patty?
So they're going to be hosting a Dine to Donate fundraiser event at Smashburger on March 3rd on Route 18 with Smashburger. They will be hosting a Shamrock Food Drive and dance at Joyce Kelmer on March 25th. And they're working to finalize the date for the Color Dash, and they will also be involved with the Earth Day cleanup again sometime in April. They're going to finalize that. And we will also be partnering with the PAL Sox for a spring fundraiser, and all the orders should be received by Easter. And they've received more grant applications for projects and programming around the district, and looking forward to positive things there. And there's a meeting tomorrow night, so.
Great, thank you, Megan. Milltown Parent Teacher Organization, Joanne.
Okay, we had a meeting last month, and there is going to be a color run in May combined with the MEF, PTO, and the teachers union, and MEA. Blah, blah, blah. It's just for fun. It's not for a fundraiser. It's just going to be for fun. They're planning bingos, and they're planning they just have the Scholastic Book Fair online, and they're planning the dance. They're going to have a dance. So they have a lot of things going, because now things are opening up, so we have a lot of things that are going to be happening for the kids. So, and that concludes my report.
Where's that gonna be?
Where, what?
The fun run, the other run?
It's going to be here.
Oh, it's-
Yeah, it's going to be outside.
Was
We're
there
going
a
to
date?
set up a registration. They're going to do it by times,
Okay.
letting like 40 people at a
There's
time
about
go.
6 dates and none of them work, so yeah.
Still
We're looking
working
at
on-
the first weekend in June now, or time of year.
So, and that concludes my
Thank you, Joanne. So, School Boards Association, so Mrs. Pardo, you will be assigned as a liaison. So I'll follow up with you, just, what the expectations are for that, so you get to report out on that. For now, just a reminder for your board evaluation, so please get that done. Is Marianne still on the schedule?
She's, well, we're meeting to the 28th, so now she might have a conflict, but I said if she has a conflict, then she can go over it with her and I, or we
Okay,
can do
yeah,
it.
okay.
Because I don't want to push it to
Yeah,
April.
yeah,
All
okay.
right, so Joanne's going to follow up with her on that. And then also, at your seats, did you get a copy of the latest school board's workshops? I thought that Joanne was.
Yeah,
Okay,
there's
good,
that,
so I just
yeah.
wanted to bring that to your attention as well.
So, so there's some workshops,
Yeah.
take a look at.
Great, thank you.
They've also been running, a few good webinars, so just take a look. I recommend a lot of them. They've been really informative lately. Okay. All right, moving on to Special Education Parent Advisory Group, Celeste.
Just at their next upcoming meeting, it's going to be Thursday, March 24th. She's looking to have someone come in with that, but she's going to get back to us on the information on that. So that concludes my report.
Spotswood Public Schools Board of Education.
So some sad news tonight, the girls and boys varsity team both lost their state championship
Oh.
games, so we're not moving on, and there's a lot of Milltown
Yeah.
kids
Yeah.
who play girls and boys, so unfortunately, we hit the end of basketball season. And I'm sure those who have kids over at Spotswood are waiting for them to announce what their mask mandate will be, and I will say now, the meeting is tomorrow night, but unless something changes between the last conversation and tomorrow, they will also be mask optional. That concludes my report.
Thanks, Jim. And finally, Milltown Human Relations Committee. Jim?
I don't think there's been a meeting since our last board meeting. There should be one soon, but I haven't gotten an invitation yet. There should be one next week scheduled. The book discussion is continuing. There'll be one more for this book, and then there'll be, we'll select another one for the next months. This concludes my report.
Thanks, Jim. All right, I will now open it up to the first public comment portion. So this is only to specific pending motions. So if you have the agenda with you, it is what is going to be up for vote and approval by the board. So if you have the agenda and there's any comments, or please state your name and address, limited to 3 minutes. All right, I will close that part and move on to superintendent's recommendation. recommendations. So the resolutions and motions which follow have been reviewed and recommended by the superintendent of schools for approval by the Milltown Board of Education. First up is education. Mary?
Recommend the motions and resolutions as outlined in education number 1.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, comments? On the field trip?
I love that field trip.
Yeah, it's a good one.
The kids love that one. Wait, we're going back.
Norma, can I have a roll?
Yes, Mrs. Demetrio.
Yes.
Mrs. Jonas.
Yes.
Mr. Lloyd.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Mara.
Yes.
Mr. Riniak.
Yes.
Mrs. Pardo.
Abstain.
Abstain.
Okay.
Abstain, I didn't. Mrs. Hyman.
Yes.
Mrs. Fizo.
Yes.
Mr. Schneider.
Yes. Moving on to finance. Jim?
Recommend the motions and resolutions as outlined in finance numbers 1 through 10.
So moved.
Second.
Questions, discussion?
That's a very quick one. I was wondering, Dr. Brown, could you just explain a little bit about the ARP-HCY funding? Just because it might not be clear to everyone.
So this is one of the many CARES Act grants that we received, they keep flowing in. So unfortunately though, Milltown, based on whatever formula they use, is not eligible to manage our own funding with this. So we'd have to seek out consortium partners. This is similar to what happens with Title III. So there was nobody in the county that was open to becoming a consortium partner. So it's unmanageable to deal with this, so we're declining the funds.
Thanks.
And it wasn't a lot of money.
No, you have to be above $5,000 to manage your own funds, so we were below that.
And Spotswood too, right?
And Spotswood was below it too, right?
Any other questions, comments? All right, Norma, can I have a roll call?
Yes, Mrs. Demetrio.
Yes.
Mrs. Jonas.
Yes.
Mr. Lloyd.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Mara.
Yes.
Mr. Riniak.
Yes.
Mrs. Pardo.
Abstain.
Mrs. Timon.
Yes.
Mrs. Fizo.
Yes.
Mr. Schneider.
Yes. Moving on to policy and personnel. Joanne?
Recommend the motions and resolutions as outlined in policy and personnel, numbers 1 through 8, where number 3 has 2 new hires. There's an addendum adding on to
And motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments?
I have a question. Is that Mrs. Walsh from years ago, Mrs. Walsh?
Probably.
What?
Um,
Terry.
Terry, okay, I wasn't sure. Not Leslie, right? No,
No.
okay.
No, she had me later last year, she helped a bunch of recommend.
Oh, I know who that is. Yeah. Nice.
With the face covering, since this is the first reading,
Yeah.
does that mean we have to wait till the second reading for it to be enacted? or-
No,
Okay. Just to-
you don't need a
Good
motion.
question. Good question. Anything else? No? All right, Norma, can I have a roll call?
Yes, Mrs. Demetrio.
Yes.
Mrs. Jonas.
Yes.
Mr. Lloyd.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Mara.
Yes.
Mr. Riniak.
Yes.
Mrs. Pardo.
Abstain.
Mrs. Timon.
Yes.
Mrs. Fizo.
Yes.
Mr. Schneider.
Just wanted to say, I just realized, for number 4, our loss is Spotswood's gain. She became the honors history teacher over at Spotswood. Sarah Traccio. Yeah.
Good to know. And finally, facilities and public relations.
Recommend the motions and resolutions as outlined in facilities and public relations, number 1.
So moved.
Second.
There's an addendum.
Is there for that one?
I didn't see it.
Finance.
No.
No.
I'm sorry, facilities, I'm on my
Good.
list.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Jen, and who else moved it?
No,
I
Jen-
did.
Joanne and.
I did, Jim did.
Okay, good. Any questions, comments? No? All right, now we're going to roll call.
Yes, Mrs. Demetrio.
Yes.
Mrs. Jonas.
Yes.
Mr. Lloyd.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Mara.
Yes.
Mr. Riniak.
Yes.
Mrs. Pardo.
Abstain.
Mrs. Timon.
Yes.
Mrs. Fizo.
Yes.
Mr. Schneider.
Yes. All right, now we'll for public comment. This is a public comment section, so if you have a comment, please state your name and address the certain things we can discuss in public, such as personnel issues or student-related. If you do have a question, feel free to state it, but we will need time to make note of it, and then we'll need time to address it, and then the appropriate person will get back to you. So please, if you have a comment, also limited to 3 minutes, which we do need to enforce. So after 3 minutes, if you need to be cut off, please reach out to me, and I'd be more than happy to continue any conversation and discussion needed. Okay? So now I'll open it up to our public comment portion. Again, please state your name and address for the record.
Carl,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, can I make a statement?
This is for the public first, after we have board topic wrap-up, which
Okay.
you can make during that time.
Okay.
Yep.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Maria Berkover. I live at 42 Reba Avenue in Milltown. This is the question and I guess statement that I have. So there have been a number of fundraisers that so far have taken place. And this is like my first year, I guess, with Milltown because my son is in the pre-K program. He's 3 years old. So we had Pure Vita bracelets on September 15, book fair September 22, Otis Funkmeyer on 10/7, full apparel sale 10/14, change challenge 11/2, gift report 11/8, even 11/17, holiday shop 12/2. Then on 2/11, Parkview was gifted $1,000 from Maloof Chevrolet in North Brunswick. So the question that I have is, where is the money going? Specifically, there is no report, at least that I'm aware of. First of all, how much was gathered upon each fundraiser, except for 2 fundraisers. The $1,000 from Maloof Chevrolet, it was stated on Parent Square that their extremely generous donation will help fund our STEM programs in school. Only one other, what's it called, fundraiser, out of the ones that I mentioned, it's Parent Square stated where the money was going, and that was the change challenge. A bit over $3,000 was gathered, and it was used to buy more books for the school. The other ones, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, Maloof Chevrolet 10. So only 2 out of 10, we the parents were told where the money's going and how much money was gathered. And I was wondering if it's possible to publish some kind of report, like, hey, with this fundraiser, we raised this much money, and this is where it's going to go. It's going to go towards Joyce Kilmer, it's going to go towards Parkview, towards very specific things.
Okay,
Because
so
right
all
now
of
it's
those
kind of like-
fundraisers you named are PTO
Yeah, so I'll let Mrs. Speed.
related fundraisers. We don't give out where or how much, not how much we've collected. That, you can come to any one of the general PTO meetings and find that, there's also minutes. But all of that money goes back to the school, we don't keep any of that money. So the classrooms get books, the 1st grade and the 4th grade get t-shirts for free. We do parties throughout the year, so every single party and dance and luau and bingo and ice cream social and the pool parties at the end of the year, those are all funded by the fundraisers.
It's all after-school activities that the PTO runs. So all that money is put into a pool, and then it goes out to, so that the PTO can run all these events for the kids.
Every October, there is a general meeting, and at that general meeting, the budget goes out, and everybody gets a copy who comes to the meeting, so they can see where all the money goes.
Yeah, the PTO is a separate organization, it's not the Board of Education.
Right.
Okay, so you would go to the PTO meeting and get like a copy of the budget?
Right, in October,
Yes.
the PTO has their general meeting, and at that meeting, you can get a copy of the budget.
Is it like uploaded somewhere?
No, PTO doesn't have a website. They have a Facebook page, you can ask somebody on there for it, someone can send it out to you, it's not a problem.
The Chevrolet check that was donated directly, we're still working on it. Ms. Klinger and, were you there, Mrs. Peterson? Yeah? Yeah. Right? And Mrs. Eichert and Mr. Ariam, they were there. So that, we're still considering what to do as far as the STEM kits. We're trying to review the STEM units that STEM units that we have right now. and see if there's any materials that we need for the current ones that we're using at Parkview, but then Ms. Klinger found nice kits that we might purchase with that money. We just wanted to see if there was anything that we needed for the existing units before we went out and bought additional units, but it was from what, the Alaska Library Association. So that was something that was just a donation, that didn't go. But the board does not make a habit of getting involved in fundraising. We leave that all up to the PTO, and they do an excellent job with that.
And I should add that every year the schools are gifted presents with whatever money is left over. So every year the school gets something else. They got the sign outside, the electric sign at both schools. We got playground equipment. We did flexible seating. We also give all the teachers mini grants. They request mini grants, so if they ask for something, they get money from that also. And that's all in the budget.
Thank you, Jen, for clarifying that. Any other comments?
Oh,
Yeah,
hi.
sorry.
Hi, my name is Alicia Tompkins. My address is 42 Riva Ave, right here in Milltown. So my question is, so this year for pre-K, the price monthly was $350. We just recently received a notice in the mail that starting for the next school year, it's going up to $400. So that's about a 15% increase. So I'm just a little curious. One, what is the need for the increase? Right now, we do get things on Parent Square, which we're definitely happy to do, where glue sticks are needed, or other school supplies are needed within a classroom. But with the monthly payment now jumping to $400, just a little curious as to why this jump was needed, of 15%.
So typically, we compare it to Good Day, the tuition of Good Day. She's higher than that, less time, so we do compare the hours. I can look into it and get back to you for sure. You saw, it went out as 400, right? You got, okay. So she's even higher. I mean, the Good Day program is higher than us. I didn't want to compete, and be higher than Good Day, but we needed to be lower, so that's where we came up with it.
And what, I forgive me, we just recently moved here for the past 2 years. That's when I just started. What is Good Day?
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. Yeah, most people here know, if I know, everyone knows. A Good Day is a preschool in town.
It's a private preschool.
preschool
Private
in town.
preschool.
It has a preschool in kindergarten.
Okay.
For many years, Milltown didn't have full-day kindergarten, and so it kind of filled that role in the community.
Okay.
We'll look more into that and get you
Sure.
a good answer
Thank
to
you.
that.
Can you spell your last name?
Yeah.
Sure, it's THOMPKINS.
That's what I thought. Thank you.
Right, yeah, thank you for that. Any other comments?
Yes, good evening, Charles Cradaville. I live in New Brunswick. I'm the editor of New Brunswick Today. I spoke at your last meeting. I'm glad to see that all the winners of the November election have finally been seated, almost 2 months later than it should have happened by law. It was wrong for the other members of the board to obstruct and undermine democracy, to keep Mrs. Pardo from taking office and beginning her service to the public that elected her. As you know, many important votes were taken as part of your reorganization and subsequent meetings that she was not able to participate in because of that. My question is simple. How much did the Bush Law Group charge the taxpayers of Milltown to undermine the will of the voters by undertaking this abusive legal process?
I don't know what the bill is going to be, but we can certainly get that information to you. But just to be clear, we're very happy that Ms. Pardo is now joining us and that all this is finally behind us. There was a court opinion that was issued today that said that Ms. Pardo could finally be sworn in. At no time did the board refuse to swear in a member of the board. The court ordered that Ms. Pardo not be sworn in. The court today confirmed that there was a conflict of interest that prevented Ms. Pardo from being sworn in before today, and that the board did exactly what it was required to do by the law. Unfortunately, boards of education are highly, highly regulated by law, by statute, by regulation. And there's very little discretion that's given to them in these types of matters. And in this matter, there was no discretion. The law said that there was a conflict of interest that had to be cured, and as soon as that was done, Ms. Pardo was sworn in. At no point did the board ever ask that she be replaced, and at no point did the board refuse to swear her in. Thank you.
If I could just get the name of your attorney?
Aaron Mandel.
Okay. Yeah, I'm eager to hear from the board member, so I'll be quiet and let you continue your meeting. Thank you.
Hi, sorry, Courtney Williams, 318 Place Street. So I just wanted, I'm sorry, I didn't get your name,
Aaron.
Aaron, yeah, so I just want to speak to something that Aaron just mentioned in his response, is that this is, obviously now that Mrs. Pardo has been sat, that this is all behind everybody. That may be true legally, but that is also not very true in a real world, and I think that just speaking to you as a board, as a member of this community, as a person of color, looking at other people of color in this situation, it is very important to understand that you're not past this moment yet, and so as you go forward, as you continue to make progress as a board together and figure out your new working relationships, and as you continue to find out what each other brings to this table, to just remember that some people, especially people of color, and especially in powers of position like this, do not just get the ability to move past things, they hold on to things. I think people in the community will have an opinion, I think parents of color will have an opinion, I think voters will have an opinion, and so as a board, I hope that together and collaboratively, you can understand the want to not just move past something, but to hold yourselves accountable and transparent, and to really move forward in a good, honest, good faith effort to making a whole board and one collaborative effort for all people who want to see themselves sitting next to you here.
Thank you. So obviously, you know, appreciate the comment, and it's well said, and obviously our goal as a board always is to work collaboratively, no matter who sits at this table, because our ultimate goal obviously is to what is best for the students of this district as a whole, and that's always going to be our number one priority, and we all work together to achieve. So thank you definitely for that comment. Any other comments before I close it?
Neil Murata, 54 Van Loo Avenue. Good evening, everybody. How you doing, everybody? It's been a while since I've been in this room. It was nice to see Ms. Baca come in for a variety show. Anyway, just a couple things. Two main things. One, why is the board meeting on a Monday night the same as the council meeting?
So we just discussed that. Yeah, we have tried to work through that, but it's something we're going to have to start addressing in the future. Because I don't know if you missed it, but I did speak with one of the council people today. He did bring it up, so it's something we will look into, because I know it does create some.
You can't have your liaison here.
Well, why is the council meeting the same night as the board meeting?
It's always been a Monday night.
We changed
It's always been a Monday night.
avoid Spotswood meeting.
It's always been a Monday night. Council meeting's always been a Monday.
We changed ours to avoid
Our
Spotswood.
meeting used to be, this meeting used to be a Tuesday.
Right, we
Which
had to change it
for
because Spotswood was Tuesday.
There's 3 other nights.
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
The Board of Education, I literally just look at all the schedules for the meetings. If the Borough Council, they have 2 meetings a month.
Correct.
We typically have 1 meeting, occasionally 2 meetings. If you still wanted to attend a Borough Council meeting, you could still attend one of those and a Board of Ed meeting per month. So
Is the Board of Ed meeting on an off Monday night? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying, no, I'm saying that I don't know when they make their schedules, but when we make our
Same
schedules.
time, beginning of the year.
Right, but I'm saying that you could still make one of their meetings and one of our meetings per month.
So you're saying that you've got to miss 1 council meeting or 1 board meeting a month?
You don't have to.
Well, if you want, can't do both, right?
I'm just saying that you can
So,
still attend it.
Yeah, but that doesn't really help, because you're saying that half of the issues that go on are not important.
Oh, I agree. Have you brought this up with the?
They've always had their meeting on a Monday.
So we'll look into this, because I see that this says,
It's
it's an
a good
understandable
call, I think.
conflict and a concern, so we will definitely look into this as we adjust our schedule. for this.
I mean, and like you said, their meeting is set. There's 2 Mondays out of the month that they don't have a meeting. So you can still reschedule to a Monday, keep it on a Monday.
We also have to take into account holidays.
There's many things to take into account,
We
absolutely.
have them scheduled, our own meeting with MBA, or, I don't know, we'll have a conversation with them.
I think it's worthwhile.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah, so, the other thing is Ms. Pardo, okay? I heard council say that there was a conflict and that your hands are tied, you have to follow through on what that, if there's a conflict, your hands are tied. My understanding of the facts are that originally there was a conflict. That conflict was resolved. As soon as that conflict is resolved, it's incumbent upon this board not to wait for a court decision to say it's resolved, but for this board to go ahead and seat that person and follow the constitutional will of the people. It's very important to keep that in mind. This board should not have waited for the court to make its decision today. The actions that were taking place that resolved that conflict happened before. At that point, this board has every right, and in fact, duty, to go ahead and seat that person. We have a civics class. Our kids go to this civics class. They sit as board members, they sit as council members. They have to be taught that the Constitution of the United States and of this state are of utmost importance, and every step has to be taken to follow that. The next time, if this happens again, and as far as the legal issue, the indemnification clause is not grounds for a conflict. Otherwise, you have to recuse, every board member would have to step down at that point. And anybody who's challenged could just have a challenge and then would have to step down. So you have to look at it very clearly and very closely whenever something like this happens again. This poor person had to fight and fight. I don't even know her. I voted for her. She did great on her interview or whatever that was. And she had to fight and spend monies to sit on this board. This board should have said, look at what can we do in every single way as soon as that opportunity is, or that conflict is gone, to seat her. So please, you have to bear that in mind.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. I appreciate your comments. The Constitution, though, is not the only law of the land. And the board has a duty to abide by all of the laws and all of the regulations. And Board of Education membership is not open to everyone. There are multiple strict requirements that have to be met before someone is permitted by the law of New Jersey to serve as a member of the Board of Education. There was not one conflict that was preventing Ms. Pardo from being seated, and there was multiple. And the last one, which was the claim for indemnification, was not resolved until today. And while, you know, smart people can look at these laws and perhaps have different interpretations, the board has a duty to do what the law says and as the courts interpret it. And the courts in this case have agreed every step of the way that Ms. Pardo was not qualified to be sworn in until this afternoon. So the board had no discretion at any point to swear her in before today. There was no, the idea that the board could have done it earlier is just ignoring the fact that there was a court order entered that prevented them from doing that. So.
After the court order was entered, were steps made by Ms. Pardo and her family to resolve the conflict?
No, I mean, I'm not gonna get into back and forth, but, no,
It was incumbent upon you to advise you
it was not,
that it
Mr.
was resolved.
Mr. Murata, that's inaccurate. I personally bent over backwards to work with her attorney to try to resolve these issues. And the conflict was not resolved until this afternoon. So it wasn't, I think you're just talking about a January
The court made a
28th
ruling.
order. That did not resolve the conflict.
The court made a ruling today, correct? So the facts up to that date were set, correct?
Oh, I'm sorry, mister, but no, you're wrong. The court today dismissed her claim against the board, which was the last conflict. So, and what the board said today was that until it did that, there was a conflict that prevented her from being sued. Thank you.
Any other comments before we close public?
Dawn Milburn, 12 Desmond Avenue. I want to congratulate Agneta Pardo. I think that you're going to serve the board well. And I have a lot of respect for, I know most of these board members, and I have great respect for them. I'm sure that you're going to work well with them. My question to the board, I guess, is, I remember Agneta, after maybe a year ago, if you remember, she was a write-in candidate first. And then the next following election, she ran as, a regular candidate. And my question is why, if you had concerns, if you felt there was a conflict of interest truly with her, why did you wait till after a write-in campaign followed by an election? And the same board that I'm speaking to, I remember coming to meetings before, Zoom meetings, and you seem to embrace Agneta as a person, as an educator, as a parent. You invited her to actually work with you to maybe work on having a more creative classroom environment, more, I'm thinking of, I got the culturally responsive classroom. We were talking about being more culturally responsive. If you felt that she was going to somehow have a conflict of interest of you, then why did you invite her to work with you to improve our school district? All these things don't make sense to me. The fact that you waited past the writing candidacy, you waited past the election, you seem to embrace her offerings to help as an educator, as a trained educator, and now all this comes. It's just so perplexing to me and so confusing to me. I don't understand it. If you could address those things.
Yeah, thank you. So, and unfortunately, it is very technical, and it is confusing a lot, and is complex. So what the law says, and as interpreted by the court, is that there's different sets of requirements. There's a certain set of requirements to be a candidate to run for Board of Election, and then there's another set of requirements that one must meet to actually serve. So the conflict of interest requirement is one that is not applicable to candidates, but is applicable to actual board members. So what the case law says is that one who has a conflict of interest that would be disqualifying can still run for election so long as they cure their conflict before they are supposed to be sworn in. So it's a relatively common thing, and I'll tell you that the board did begin to reach out to Ms. Pardo before the election results were even certified to try to resolve this. The board, the truth is the board was proactive and did what they could to address this issue as quickly as possible.
I know,
Thank you.
But even so, even if you're not required, and even if there's a difference between the way candidates are handled on Board of Ed, why didn't you just proactively, as a board, just really do a formal task of taking care of this long before you spend all these dollars? I mean, you've saved for 7 years, you've saved all this money so that we can build this addition. What about the savings we could have had as a school district had you approach this in a more professional and humane manner? Then we wouldn't have to be talking about this, and you wouldn't have wasted all this money that you have spent refusing her seat.
Dawn, given the conflict that Mrs. Pardo had, it would be highly inappropriate for us to have suggested that she cure her conflict prior to even knowing that she was going to win the election. That could be taken in a very negative way and be seen as the board trying to manipulate the outcome of something that she had pending against the board. So I don't think that that would have been recommended whatsoever for us to reach out and try to suggest she do something with something she had pending prior to her winning her election.
Well, I understand that there's time sensitivity, but then even so, I understand that the first time she had to go before a judge, she brought her son with her, and that supposedly was cleared out. And the judge ruled that she could be seated. This still has continued since that. That was well over a month ago.
That's what the board attorney just addressed with Mr. Murata. That is not true.
Well, I'm just questioning why it didn't end then. When the judge said that he was satisfied, why did it not end
The
then?
public court documents are available. You are more than welcome to read them. And I understand everyone's frustration here in that because, yes, it's been a very challenging 3 months with a lot of back and forth and information out there or not. So I just hope that we can now I know we do want to move forward, have it as a learning experience. You've made some good points. We do definitely appreciate all that Mrs. Pardo has contributed to this district, given her background, which is why she was made a good board member. We are happy to have her now and will embrace her and work collaboratively with her so we can continue to work on the path and worry about what had happened. As I said, the court documents are available. People are more than welcome to read them. They are public to help answer your questions. If you have further questions, you can address it with our attorney as well. But again, as I said, our goals are now to collaboratively work together with Mrs. Pardo and the rest of this board to meet the goals of this district for our students. Okay?
Thank you, and I do trust that you will do that.
Yes, we will do that. Thank you, Mrs. Milburn. Any other public comments?
Andrew Riley, 50 Oaks. I just want to thank the board for changing the mask policy. You guys know I've been an advocate for years to take these masks off, so thank you very much for making it optional. Of course, respecting the choice whatever children and the parents make, and I thank the board members. I know no matter what you decide, you're going to have some people upset, some people happy, but thank you for giving the parents and the children the option. That's all I want to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other public comments? All right, I'll close that portion and now move on to wrap up topics. I do just want to make one additional comment about the situation is that given everything that happened this past month with Mrs. Pardo, again, we appreciate you. I'm glad you are on the board now. You have to understand that the Board of Education, as our attorney, Mr. Mandela, said, we have to do our due diligence, and given that this situation was unique, we needed to have the courts review everything to make sure what we did, what was going on, was correct. And that comment I will conclude with on that. So anyone else have any wrap-up topics as it relates?
I'd like to make a comment.
Please.
So, over a month ago, I stood before you to address the board's decision to initiate litigation in an attempt to keep me from being seated as an elected member of this Board of Education. I was disheartened by the roadblocks and challenges along the way. This could have been a much easier process if the board, along with the superintendent, chose not to be so adversarial. They could have made my path easier by working towards a resolution, but nevertheless, I am happy to take my seat as the first Latina elected to this Board of Education, so that I may fulfill my obligations to the voters of the district who chose me to represent them. Thank you to those who elected me to serve, and thank you to those who came out tonight. I know that we came here tonight prepared to defend my elected seat, which was being held from me. But this ruling only came in a few hours ago. I am happy to have everyone here with me to share in this surprise victory. I sincerely thank you for your vote of confidence in me in November, and your willingness to stand by me, despite the collective efforts to keep me from being seated. I look forward to serving the community. Thank you.
Yeah, this morning, there was a complaint about crossing guards not being out at Ford Avenue, and today when I went to Parkview to pick up my daughter, there was a crossing guard there until we were already leaving the school, so I
Well,
don't know.
that's, we'll look into it with the police, because they
Okay.
assign the crossing guards. We don't manage the crossing guards, but I'll definitely call them and let them know that there was a problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
One day there were.
They might not
I
be
did
able to
notice
get
that.
subs
Alright.
either,
Okay.
but usually they'll send an officer over, but.
And one other thing, that the flagpole at Parkview, it's been leaning, and it's really been, my OCD's just really been
What's
getting on it.
Flagpole at
At Parkview.
Just replace the flag, the flag, I didn't know about the pole.
Yeah, you know, and I'm glad the flag was replaced, I saw it. But that's just my.
We also want to congratulate the staff members of the month. Something we want to do. You have more?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Welcome, Agneta.
Also, I went on Wednesday to our district bands night. Dr. Brown was there as well. Our 7th and 8th graders went to Spotswood, and they performed a couple of songs in the band with their Spotswood group, and it was really, really well done, and we had a really good time being there with them. And they did a great job, too.
That's really nice. That's good for recruitment for the high school program too.
Yeah, no, it was
Nice.
really good. I really enjoyed it.
Congratulations to the JK basketball teams for finishing their season, I think since our last meeting. Great job.
I also want to congratulate the teachers of the month, but I also, Miss Harry is wonderful. She does so well with my son. I give her a lot of, she's very good with them, like all the teachers, but she could be a handful, so she definitely does very well with it.
So just one other thing, so yes, Nina, welcome to the board. Looking forward to working collaboratively with you, so thank you for that. And also, I do want to say, so I think it's hard to believe that we're almost 2 years, I think, since this pandemic started, so we've definitely moved in the right direction with going for mask optional. I think a lot of our activities are coming back. We're headed back towards, hopefully normal, so I encourage everyone to please, keep doing the right thing so we can stay in the right direction. And again, after these 2 years, I just want to, again, as I always do, just thank everyone, administration, teachers, staff, our board, parents, our students for just, working through all of that. It was very, very, very difficult times, but I think we've done very well working through it. So again, hopefully we can continue again in the right direction. So thank you, everybody. Can we get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right.